So here's another video on Nietzsche. This is my third or fourth one, I think. And yeah, listen to some of these quotes. And these were pulled from AI, but the first video I did, I went through one of his books and pulled the quotes directly from his book, and they all parallel this. So yeah, I mean, this guy was awful. So um, he wrote in a letter to his sister in 1887, "You have committed one of the greatest stupidities for yourself and for me. Your association with an anti-Jew chief expresses a foreignness to my whole way of life, which fills me again and again with ire or melancholy. It is a matter of honor with me to be absolutely clean and unequivocal in relation to anti-Jewishism, namely opposed to it, as I am in my writings." Right? Obviously, again, he had no idea about anything about history, about philosophy, about race, about Christianity. The guy was a complete toolbox. So um, then he wrote Deutschland, Deutschland über alles. I feel that was the end of German philosophy, right? So German nationalism under Bismarck was bad, according to this retard. Um, then he wrote, apparently, in a letter to Franz Overbeck in January of 1889, he wrote, "I am just having all anti-Jews shot." So this absolute retard would have shot almost every single German and many millions of Europeans from the 1930s into the 1940s. What does that sound like? Oh, I know, a Jew Bolshevik. This is what some people actually quote. This absolute fool, this anti German, anti European, anti white, and anti Christian a hole. This guy was not on our side. He was a Jew lover. So, in a letter to Franz Overbeck in 1887, he said, "This damned anti Jewishness is the cause of a radical breach between me and my sister." Well, maybe if you knew the truth, you retard, there wouldn't have been a breach instead of loving your enemy, which, by the way, is not what the Bible says, at least not in the context people take it. So, yeah, another quote. Let's see. In his book, The Antichrist, section 55, written in 1888, he said, "Today, one is no longer against the Jews simply because one dislikes their smell." Oh, so he admits that they have a stench, right? Which Patton and many other people have claimed. One is against them because one makes a business out of it. That is the lying race swindle essence. So, how exactly does this moron think that people make a business out of it when even back then, if you were, it was hard for you to do business? You were lambasted in the Jew media because they control the media. What is this fool talking about? I mean, this guy is an absolute moron. It drives me insane that some people who, especially in the National Socialist movement, quote him or think that the Germans or the NSDAP actually cared about this guy. Almost nobody cared about him. He was irrelevant. He was nothing. Here and there, you'll find a quote about him, but in the National Socialist literature. But I mean, I've read thousands of documents. I've came across him mentioned, in a favorable light, maybe I don't know, 5 times, a handful of times, and I've also read a few uh, things about him that were obviously bad because people realized he was an idiot and he wasn't actually on their side. So, um, yeah, so I don't know. Sorry, this guy gets me riled up because he's a traitor, he's a liar, and he's in bed with our enemies. So, um, apparently, he attacked Emperor Wilhelm II. Nietzsche refers to the young Kaiser and the German Reich as a catastrophe for European culture. The Germans, who basically created everything, the cradle of civilization. I mean, anybody who's been around most real Germans acknowledges that they are amazing people. I mean, they're just super nice people, caring people. They've invented, the white race with the Germans being the core of it have invented like everything. But this idiot claims that they are a catastrophe. I mean, do you not realize what he is? So, yeah. So he says there he became increasingly aggressive in his notes towards Adolf Stoker and his brother-in-law Bernard Forster. Um, yeah, I mean, he didn't understand what Forster and Stoker and his sister and millions and freaking hundreds of millions, billions of people throughout history have talked about because he's not read. He doesn't know anything. Or he didn't know anything. Obviously, he's not alive. So another quote, let's see, said, the anti-Jews, these completely botched individuals who need moral indignation as a kind of narcotic, these small lying race winners. I mean, do you think Forrester and all these guys grew up thinking that they were going to just have an issue with a group of people? No, of course not. Like everybody, they eventually saw the truth. They looked around them in the world and saw who was fudging everything up. What the hell was Nietzsche looking at? What was he paying attention to? Right? Probably only cared about himself. He was probably a narcissist. I mean, just an absolute moron, this guy is. Another one, it says, I don't have any other quotes, do I? Just some more comments about him. Oh, yeah. So it says on the bottom there, in 1888, Nietzsche wrote about a new caste that would rule Europe. Now, what does this sound like? He said, Nietzsche's new masters were good Europeans, a multinational intellectual elite who would be anti nationalist and anti German. He explicitly stated that this new caste would be composed of the most refined. Refined defined as what is refined defined as? Refined according to who? Most refined elements of European society, including Jews. Right? What does that sound like? That sounds like I'm drawing a blank right now, but it's the the race mixing guy from the UN who the Kudnov Kalergi, right? The half white, half Asian, or part Jew uh, agent of the Jews that wanted to destroy the white race through race mixing, which the Germans, NSDAP, talked about back in the 1930s. And obviously it's still talked about up until today, but of course the Jews deny it, right? You're just a conspiracy theorist if you bring that up. But that is exactly what Nietzsche sounds like. Kalergi. They're one and the same. I mean, like literally, the National Socialists would have had this moron arrested or kicked out of the country. So, and it's interesting too because people quote him, or a few people quote him, thinking that somehow National Socialists used some part of his thinking, which is next to impossible. Yet I think, or from what I was reading anyway, and maybe I'll do a separate video on it, the only thing maybe that people have used are what his sister kind of manipulated. From what I read, she manipulated his later work to make him sound like not as much of a complete asshole and to try to make it sound like he was pro-German or I don't know, had some semblance of reality and logic to him and didn't sound like a complete freaking anti-white, anti-Christian lunatic. So I think that maybe people take some quotes from that she manipulated, but they weren't really quotes from him. If you read what he really wrote, he's obviously just a horrific individual. So, um, yeah. So then over on the right there, and is Beyond Good and Evil. I think maybe that's the book that I quoted from in my first video. And he talks about the inevitability of mixed race of Europeans. I mean, it's not inevitable. It doesn't have to be inevitable. If white people knew the truth and stood up, and actually addressed the situation and addressed the people that are causing the problem. So again, he sounds like Kalergi. Um, and then he also talks about the role of the Jewish people in this new mixed race structure he's talking about. Right? Again, literally sounds like Kalergi. And so I talked about this in my prior video. He talks about them, the Jews, as being the strongest, most tenacious, and purest race. They're literally mongrels There's nothing pure about them at all. I mean, literally nothing pure about them, which is why they're the ones pushing the mixed race agenda to destroy the actual pure race, the pure white race, and pure any race. So, um, and yeah, so Nietzsche was one of the worst individuals there possibly was in German history. Nobody should quote him. Nobody should read him, especially if you know the truth about what the National Socialist Germany and basically all of Europe was fighting for from the 1930s to the 1940s. So.